Okay, so today's speaker is Keith Hiscock, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for almost 20 years now, I think, scarily. Keith is an honorary fellow at the Marine Biological Association, and he's been working in marine biology, ecology and conservation since the 1970s. Since 1998, I think you've been at the Marine Biological Association, Keith?
Yes, 98, yeah.
Yeah, and he's undertaken a huge amount of really important work supporting marine conservation and marine conservation designations in the UK. He's written several books now about marine conservation and marine ecology, which I'm sure he'll mention during his talk. And he's going to be talking to us today about seasons in the seas.
So we're ready to fire away, and this is going to be a very rapid gallop through a selection of images which demonstrate the sorts of seasonal change which occur in Plymouth Sound, north of the breakwater. I'll introduce it in a strange way by saying that if you're land-based, you probably do this sort of thing. You make a note in your diary of when the first frog spawn occurs, and every year you can say, oh, it's a couple of days later, or it's a week earlier. But in the sea, it's a different matter. We had 3.5 months in 2013-14 when we couldn't even get into the water, let alone see any changes there. And that's happened in recent years as well, with winter storms and so on. So we can't do that sort of systematic day-by-day observation, but we can make observations, and we can see trends, and we can see things which reliably happen every year. I mean, at this very moment, there are whelks out there laying their eggs in Plymouth Sound. You can see this picture taken on the 2nd of January off West Hoe. And this seems to be a consistent event between December and February each year. So we worked that one out, as it were. It's a bit more puzzling. This is happening at this time of the year. The hermit crab Pagurus prido with its associated sea anemone, cloak anemone, Adamsia palliata, and the male has grabbed his mate. He's waiting for her, presumably, to come out of her shell so that he can mate with her. Now that's happening now, but I'm not quite sure how much it happens throughout the year, or just the springtime, or what. So your observations can add to that. Very, very remarkably at this time of year, perennial seaweeds have died back in the autumn. And this picture on the left here was taken on Monday this week. And it's this rather beautiful sea beach, Delaceria sanguinea, which is absolutely fabulous for pressing. If you want to press these seaweeds, go out and collect some in April, May. Certainly not now. So 24th of February 2017, that's what that grotty little number of spikes on the left there will begin to look like. So you get new growth. Looking at a non-native species, I mentioned that obviously there have been non-native species that arrive in Plymouth Sound, usually attached to boats. Most of the species are characteristic of harbours and estuaries, because that's where the boats come from and go to. But this one, wakame, it's what you use to wrap your sushi in, what you make your miso soup with, and it was brought into France as a mariculture species. First recorded in Plymouth Sound in July 2003. That's the actual plant in the middle. We're getting sporelings from January onwards. We'll get large plants from March onwards, but they'll start to disintegrate from late June to the end of September until they look like those on the left there, which I know is an intertidal picture, but there you are, where the fronds have gone and just the stipes left. There are always sporelings to large plants somewhere in the Sound, but there is an annual cycle predominantly, which looks like this. And then springtime. They really kick off in April, May. These fabulous growths of lots of hydroids and seaweeds and so on, beautifully fresh, lovely to photograph, kick off in that April to May period. And this is Tubularian divisor. Each one of those polyps is no bigger than your little fingernail. and they look absolutely fabulous. They photograph well, but the sea slugs find them. Just like the flowers in your garden, the slugs will get them. And slugs are very specific to the hydroids they feed on. And these Fiordia lineata have already consumed the hydroids and have been busy laying their eggs on the stalks that were left afterwards. And that's a fairly sort of typical scene with hydroids and sea slugs. Now, a relative of that tubular indivisor, an aphecate hydroid, is this Corymorpha nutans, which is the height of your little finger. And it lives in the sediment. If you swim out from the shore at Firestone Bay, what they call Devil's Point Beach, you might see 2 or 3 on the swim, a 10-minute swim over the sediment in some years. But in other years, you'll see 2 or 3 per square meter. So we do get a lot of variability in the abundance of species each year. There are good years and poor years. And just like the tubularia indivisor, there are sea slugs which absolutely love to eat them. So they won't last for long. If you want to get your pictures, get out there at the end of April, beginning of May. But this one turned out to be unusual. It turned out to be this Cuminotis beaumontii. It's a nationally rare nudibranch. Type locality is Plymouth Sound. When I came to look at the National Biodiversity Network Atlas, there weren't any confirmed records. I hadn't submitted my record, had I? Well, I have now, and it's been confirmed. But if you do see unusual things, do submit your records, or rather, location of species, do submit your records. Now, everybody's favourite, cuttlefish, Sepia officinalis, and we don't see that many in Plymouth Sound. You might see 2 or 3 in a dive. I am not aware of any sort of aggregations such as those which occur at Babbacombe in Tor Bay. So let me know if you know of any breeding aggregations in Plymouth Sound. Generally, in Babbacombe, they breed at the end of April. And there are emails flying out to all the underwater photographers saying, the cuttlefish are in, the cuttlefish are in. And that will be about 25th, 26th, 27th of April. And they're laying their eggs. Here in Plymouth Sound on the 9th of April 2017, no, they were laying their eggs quite early. So you can't rely on consistency in some species. You will get variations. Why? Who knows? Here's a rather fabulous one. Here's corkwing wrasse with its nest. Now, Paul Naylor has got some superb video of corkwing wrasse tending their nests, attracting females to their nests, and so on. And Paul in the past has been accused of showing pictures of a tropical fish in a presentation which is supposed to be about British species. They are rather exotic, and the story of their nest building is a very interesting one, researched by Jeff Potts with the help of people like Roger Swinfen at the MBA in the 1970s and 80s. So we know quite a lot about these nests. If you want to photograph them, I go to Bobbysand Harbour. You've got to look for an overhanging north-facing rock. This is a dominant species in many areas of Plymouth Sound. Interestingly, when I went to look up the breeding time in the Plymouth Marine Fauna, the locations which are cited there for abundant feather stars are exactly the same places as they occur today. So don't assume that old data doesn't tell you the story that's relevant today. But look at them, they've got these claws on the base. I mean, they're about the size of your fist. But their breeding is pretty well known. And David Nichols did work in 1994 suggesting they breed May to July. And I had someone asking me to collect the pentacrinoids, the stage that settles on the seabed from the short-lived larvae. And this is what a pentacrinoid looks like. It looks like a sea lily. So in your geology and so on, you'll get lots of fossil sea lilies, and these are closely related to the Antidon bifida. And May, July, that's when you're likely to see the pentacrinoids. Pretty regular event. Serendipity. Serendipity is very, very important in all of these observations. I go in the water when I can. and sometimes you see things. These two spiny starfish were only about 5 meters apart. And you can see the one on the left is producing lots of white stuff, presumably sperm. And the one on the right, 5 meters away, is producing lots of orange stuff, presumably eggs. So they're up on their arms, getting up into the water currents and reproducing. And that's the sort of record which is very useful to have, to know the time of year that they do this. Not enough records to say how consistent that time of year is. But if you dive in Plymouth Sound fairly regularly, you will get these serendipitous observations. Now you have to look at the recording of this to see the text here, because I need to move on. But the story about when they spawn is a little bit sort of inconsistent. It might be they spawn several times. It might be they spawn at different times in different years. More observations needed. This is a nice one. I've mentioned non-native species. This is a species that is native to the Northeast Atlantic, Parablenius pylicornis. It's called the variable blenny, but there are lots of species all over the world that are called the variable blenny, so it's not really a very good name. But it turned up, seen for the first time in Britain, in Plymouth Sound in 2007. In the last few years, it's become particularly abundant in parts of Plymouth Sound, and it's spread outside Plymouth Sound. It's now known from Whitsand Bay, from Wembury, and other places in southern England. So here's a male, breeding male. These fish are larger than the size of your thumb. They're a bit smaller than the related tompot blenny, but you can see this orange flash on the dorsal fin, which most likely is a breeding colour for this rather attractive species, photographed here at Eastern King Point. And here's a male again, and they seem to go this sort of chocolate colour when they're guarding eggs. So they've not only arrived in Britain, perhaps associated with vessels, don't know whether they've swum here from Brittany or Portugal, but they're a range extension, and they are breeding, and I think they're here for good. And the time of year that they breed is round about June to August. Now, I did have a picture of an aggregation, a molting aggregation of spider crabs at Millbay Marina. It was taken for the Evening Herald, the Plymouth Evening Herald. Unfortunately, no reply to my request for permission, so I've swapped it for a picture from Babbacombe. Now, these aggregations have been being recorded only really for the last 10 years or so, but they're being recorded in more and more places. And they are molting aggregations, they're not breeding aggregations. And if you see any of these, or if you find a strand line covered in the molted shells of spider crabs, do make a record of it, do let me know, because it does seem as if there are more and more events like this being seen. So first time in Plymouth Sound, strangely, the walls of Millbay Marina. Here's another exotic looking species, and you might say, oh, triggerfish, that's a tropical species. This must be global warming. Well, they've been recorded in British waters since 1865. Be very careful not to jump to conclusions, but they only turn up in the Plymouth area, and in fact in southwest England, from July to November. It's one unconfirmed record, mid-May. But then they get washed up dead in December to January. And I think it's because they become moribund when the water temperature goes below 12 degrees centigrade. So they come to the UK on their holidays and they can't go back again. And they come from southern areas. They probably come up from Portugal, from the Azores. They might even come across from the east coast of the United States. This is quite a large aggregation. People are usually seeing ones and twos, but when I looked around me on this particular location, I counted 14 of them. Autumn shutdown. So we've had some marvelous pictures, absolutely beautiful. April, May, June, everything's blossoming, looking great. Jewel anemones here in May, absolutely beautiful. That's the time to photograph them, because come the end of August and into the autumn, towards the turn of the year, a lot of these close up. Look at this, absolutely fabulous. Size of the end of your thumb, that particular white area, the dead man's fingers, size of the end of your thumb, beautiful polyps, photographed in May. Look at it now. So this is the 23rd of November, and come August, September time, they shut up shop. They pull their polyps in and they don't put them out again. And they become covered in diatoms, or even hydroids settle on them and so on, until about early December, late December, when the polyps re-expand and you get back to your gorgeous dead men's fingers. And as a sort of final slide in this presentation, I do want to emphasize that you can find out for yourself. Of course, please do make observations, and we'll come back to how to record those observations in a minute. But there are lots of sources of information. I mean, there's the Plymouth Marine Fauna available online. And you can see here that one of those dead men's fingers from the Mewstone on the 20th of December, 1926, gave off eggs during the night. So they're re-expanding and they're reproducing. Richard Hartnell did a very, very good piece of work, which was published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, plenty of those about, on the annual cycle of Alcyone digitatum. And all of this sort of information from various sources is harvested for a large number of species by the Marine Life Information Network, by the Marlin program, which was what we started in 1998 at the Marine Biological Association. And that information is presented on the Marlin web pages, but also in its spin-out, the Biotic Biological Traits Information Catalogue. So it's brought together. But what do you do if you see some seasonal event or some unusual breeding event? There currently seems no way of submitting your observations of seasonal occurrences, food preferences, behavior, etc., to a dedicated recording scheme. So I've been bouncing this off Dan Lear, who from time to time you'll find on the top floor of the library. And he mentions that DASH, the UK Archive for Marine Species and Habitats Data, is actively developing a mechanism to capture species observations and integrate them into UK marine biodiversity data infrastructure. So there we are. You've got something to hold Dan to, but also something to encourage those organisations that fund that sort of work to fund it. Because if we've got information on reproduction, on seasonal changes, on good years and poor years and so on, we've got the information that helps us to interpret monitoring data, which helps us to interpret what is really happening as a result of climate change, seawater warming, and so on. So it's very important data, very important information. And for me, it's over to you to carry on with the good work. So thank you very much indeed, everyone. There's much more to tell, but that's all for the moment. But do let me know if you have additions, if you disagree, and so on. And do find out more from this beautiful publication, which would have made a good Christmas present if you'd have thought of it, but you might as well buy it now. Thank you. That's me done.